Okay, so I'll restart. Welcome again. Relationships, single and searching is our theme for today. And we will be speaking about these in terms of the church, single men and women. And we're just going to have a look at the history of dating. So before the 1920s, marriage was an economic enterprise with someone who was considered a good person. It depended on a woman's fidelity for patrimony and lineage. So the man has surety his children were his, and it's his children who would inherit his estate. So generally, arranged marriages were the norm. If love grew, it was a bonus. Physical intimacy with your spouse was not because of love, was the norm. The community or the village was there for you. All your emotional needs were not dependent on just one person. So if we have a look, say in the 1920s, the production of automobiles gave rise to singles meeting outside the household on social settings. They were able to travel further. Courting became a popularity game, say in the 1930s. After the Second World War, the men came home and there was a baby boom eventually. In the 1960s, oral contraception gave rise to Planned Parenting. In the 1970s, rock and roll gave rise to free love. Premarital sex was no longer a taboo, and sex determined if someone would date you on a long-term basis. In the 1980s came AIDS, and this kind of put a damper on the free love movement. In the 1990s, there came the World Wide Web, which opened up dating. So you no longer needed to date someone in your immediate circle or, even just miles down the road. Following that, there was video chat, which made it possible to see your person and their nonverbal cues. So in the last 60 to 70 years, it became the norm to choose for yourself who you marry. It became a romantic arrangement. Many now marry because they fell in love. There has been a move away from religion as a center and placing self at the center. The partner now meets your many expectations. And so there are many unmet expectations that has resulted in relationship not starting or a marriage being unhappy. You now want your partner to be your best friend, to go everywhere, to have interests that are same as you, to fill the emptiness. So your partner is being looked on as someone to fulfill all your needs. So Christians are caught between the two scenarios of arranged marriages and marriage for love. So in the church, we find that your success in finding a partner depends on whether or not you have a good standing in the church. If you take your partner to the church, then if you're not in good standing, it stands a very good chance of someone telling them about your past. So you most of the time, singles are trying to find someone that the church member or church members or pastor would approve of. So I find that individuals are looking for certain criterias before they look at the person themselves. So Christians also want to marry for trust, affection, intimacy, and desire like everyone else. With premarital sex, Christians who are able to get contraception, as we said, that came about in the 1960s, then we do find that even though the law hasn't changed in terms of having sex outside of marriage, we do find that some Christians do that. And so this has become an issue in terms of finding a partner if other men or other women are aware that this is how this person is. So here we are in the modern dating. Christians are somewhat getting used to online dating and video dating. And so to help us to navigate the modern day dating scene, we're looking today to hear from the men. We'd like input from the women as well, but we just wanted to hear from the men in terms of their experience dating outside the church and inside the church and over the different years of their lives. So we've got Eric and we've got Lennox who are on. So we will basically start with early dating. I'm sure both of you have experience of dating outside the church. What is the main difference in dating outside the church in comparison with dating in the church? If, let's say, Lennox, would you like to start?
Yeah. Let me turn the microphone on. Yep. Can you hear?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. I think I think women in church aren't fully open to building a friendship with somebody. I've got friends in church and friends at the church. For some reason, sisters in church want to restrict their level of communication. Can't talk about this, can't talk about that. Whereas female friends of mine that are non-church, there isn't any issues regarding what we can talk about and what we can't talk about.
Okay. And Eric?
I suppose dating outside of the church, my background is that I've been in the church for maybe 5 years and leading a Christian lifestyle for maybe 10 years, something like that. But so my experience before dating outside the church is more as a non-Christian. And really, we know it's obviously when you become a Christian, then your values become a lot greater than what it is when you're not a Christian. So, I mean, outside the church, it was more, to be honest, it was a promiscuous lifestyle that I was leading before coming into the church and before coming a baptized Christian or before following the ideas of Christianity. So, and then dating inside the church, I think is you find a much better quality of person within the church. Excuse me. I find a much better quality of person within the church than you do that's not part of the church and not a Christian background. Experience of dating Christians has been it's been a nice experience. It's been good meeting some really positive relationships there, and yeah, so I think that's the differences that I'm finding is that over the last 5 years or so, being a Christian inside the church and dating, it's been good, positive experience meeting some good quality people.
Okay, thank you. So of the women that you find in the church, what is the reason for not choosing a partner as yet?
For myself, it's I met somebody, but I met one person, and then no, I met a couple of people. First person, I decided not to proceed with because I think being in the church, being out of the church, and being naive, and then not realizing that the women were looking a lot younger than what I anticipated. So I was dating somebody for a few months maybe, and then when I found out that she was maybe maybe 15% older than myself. So from there, I thought that it was out of my age group really, and I wasn't aware that a healthy lifestyle and you know, a vegetarian background can make the women so attractive really, and so much and look younger than what they actually are. And then I met somebody else and was dating, but then unfortunately it was her that wasn't interested in pursuing things. So I think over the past 5 years, there's been maybe a couple of opportunities there.
Okay, thank you. Angel, you have a question?
Yes. I was listening to the first gentleman that spoke, and he was saying that when he had tried to get to know sisters in the church, that there were some questions that he couldn't ask. Out of curiosity, I just wanted to know what those questions were and whether that was more like a personal boundary for those women rather than a generalization of all women in church. Because, yeah, I was curious to know what those questions were. Thank you.
No, there were no. I was. It was a general. You have to think. It's a generalization statement that I've made there. I find I'm not. I've never dated anybody since I've been in church. I've never dated anybody outside of church. I've only dated sisters in church. But in terms of building a friendship, which to me leads towards a relationship, and friends outside of church, there aren't any barriers to any type of conversation we can have, whether it's news, what's happening in Palestine, or personal issues. There isn't any barriers. I find that a lot of sisters put up barriers. Oh, I can't talk about this and I can't talk about that. It's not that I'm pursuing
Yeah,
anyone.
sorry, I just wanted to understand what you meant by what are the barriers in terms of like what they can't discuss.
Well, no, I don't think it's one thing. I think it's across the board, sis. It's across the board. It's not just one thing.
Can you give some examples?
Yeah, I suppose it's on the level. I think it's about the depth of conversation you can have. Sisters in church don't want to dig deep. A lot of sisters in church do like a surface skim of relationships, as an example. If you look at sort of talking about relationships and what's involved in relationships, a lot of the sisters in church will want to skim the surface rather than dig deep. So, for example, if you say to somebody, "Have you read Mars and Venus?" You know, the John Gray book. They will go, "No, I haven't." And then when you sort of say, "Well, look, that's worth reading because it looks at the issues of men and women," I'm not bothered about that because I go to church and Jesus will provide all the answers for me. And then I then counter with, if we're single, part of the tools that we can acquire is to learn about relationships. So if anything goes wrong, you've got the tools to problem solve. And a lot of sisters will go, "No, don't need that. I'm not going to read that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not interested in that. We will deal with issues as they arise." Whereas friends of mine in that are non-church are happy to discuss relationships as they exist. That's just one example.
Okay, so we had Dee. Dee, do you still want to ask a question?
I think I just wanted to know, because the brother mentioned, Brother Lennox, I think he said you've never dated in church since.
No, I've
Correct.
never dated out of church. All the
Or
relationships
out of church.
Yeah, all the relationships I've had have been in church. I've never dated anybody out of church. Since I'm a third generation Adventist. I left church when I was 16 and came back when I was 22, 23.
Mm.
And
So you've never been married?
No, never been married.
Okay. And so you've been in the church for as well. So,
Yes.
so over the 20 or so years that you've been back in the church, you found this problem across the church with all the women,
Absolutely.
with all the ladies in the church?
Yes, I have.
Wow, that's interesting. Because I feel like that it's more like it sort of come across like it's more of a like Adventist women are quite, what's the term? I'm not going to say weak because I know I'm not.
Reserved.
Like quite reserved, and like they can't have
Yeah.
conversations. Which is really strange because I know a lot of intelligent women who read. I read, you know, women who have their businesses, women who are really forward, and so that's really strange that you've come across, and in general, you find that over this 20 years, you know, that this problem
Probably
has gone
actually,
on
it's probably a
among
lot.
so many
Probably it's a
Adventist
lot.
women.
Probably a lot more than 20 years. I'm not a teenager anymore. So that's a lot
Yeah,
more.
so I
It's a
think
lot more
that's,
than 20 years.
yeah. So have you considered like looking at yourself to see
Absolutely.
if
Oh,
it,
absolutely. That's the first
yeah.
thing that you do. No, I'm not. I'm looking at me. I look at me first. The first thing I do,
Mm.
and go, well, what is the problem here? What is it that I'm presenting? What are the type of people that have I selected? Is the first thing I look at is myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just find that quite interesting. Okay.
Pardon me if I could shed a few light, you know. Okay, my name is Rhett. Now, according to what Leonard, okay, what was the question? What is the difference of dating women in the church and dating women outside the church? Okay, let's start within the church. In the church, it's like more restrictive, right? And the outside the church, okay, although there's a wider variety of women, they can be dangerous, but you have a wider variety and there's no barriers, as someone once said. But in the church, they can be a bit restrictive, right? And as I said, what you can say to a woman outside the church, you couldn't say to a woman inside the church because it's like two different worlds. Because remember,
Can I just jump in there? When you say we're talking about having a conversation. We're not.
that's right. Yeah.
Give an example, Red. What can't you say?
Okay, like say you want to hold a conversation now, right?
You mean about
Conversation might be
sex?
a bit your conversation might be a bit secular, not bad. The lady in the church may say, no, I don't want to discuss that. It could be anything, you know? Meanwhile, if it was somebody on the outside, they would say, okay, you could have a good conversation. So there's a bit difference there.
No,
you know?
I use that somebody asked me for an example, and I use the example of relationships. I mean, you know, I'm not being salacious, or else I would say, well, you know, you wouldn't want to approach anybody because if you're approaching somebody in the spirit of friendship, you're not wanting to be talking about sort of stuff that's grimy. I'm talking about sort of general conversation, in-depth.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm not talking grimy things. I'm just talking, you know, no, I wouldn't do that. Which in either way I wouldn't, whether church or non-church, I wouldn't come up with those things because I'm not that type of person, really.
Okay, Susan has a question.
Sorry, it's Suzanne, not Susan. Yeah. I just wanted to respond to what the two gentlemen have said. If I may, with all due respect, when you say women in the church, with all due respect, you haven't spoken to every single one of us. So please don't make a blanket statement. Please say the ones I have spoken to, because in all honesty, you couldn't possibly have spoken to thousands of women. And where there's a lot of women on here, and I find it a little bit disrespectful, if I'm honest, you know, we're all single people here, we're all trying to be open and honest as Christians. Be careful how you speak and how you're coming across, because it comes across not very nice. So I understand that the women you spoke to responded that way, but you can't say it's all of us because you haven't. How many of us on here have you even spoken to? It's not fair to say it that way. So please.
But
I agree because you haven't met me. You haven't met the lady who spoke as well.
What you're doing,
and I think it's like a blanket statement.
No, what you're doing is
you're
your personalizing
for whatever reason.
Eve asked
It is
the
personal.
conversation
It is
we've had.
personal.
yeah, but Eve asked the question, and in order to answer the question, she asked Eric and she asked me my personal experience, and I'm not talking about. It's obviously none of us can talk about the everybody that we've met. I'm generalizing on the women that I have encountered,
But you
and
didn't
I'm sharing
specify it like
I'm
that.
sharing my personal experience. So you can't be telling me about I have to speak to all women in order to get all views. You've asked me for my personal views, and I'm giving my personal views.
I understand that and I respect that, but I don't think you're quite understanding what I'm saying. The point is, when you're saying your personal views, you're saying it as if this is how you view all women. You're
Well,
saying
that's never going to happen, is it? Eve asked me for my personal views. She asked Eric for his personal views, and we're giving our personal views. I differentiated it by saying
Okay.
my relationship
Have you
with women
visited
in
other
the church,
churches?
and
Have you
I also
visited other
mentioned friends
churches?
of mine out of church. So I've linked friends in church, friends out of church,
Okay.
and
Lennox,
what I
Lennox.
also said was
So
I
they're
look at
answering
building.
based on their own
Sorry. Have you
experience.
visited other churches other than your own church? Because your church is not like the only church. Have you visited other churches?
Okay,
Perhaps to
yes, okay. Well, I can say hand on heart, without all the churches in the UK, I bet there would be very few churches that I would go to that I wouldn't know somebody who would know somebody. I have that much
Sorry,
confidence
are you
in the
answering the
amount of
question?
churches that I attended, and amount of churches
So
I've attended.
my question was, have you visited other churches other than your
Okay,
own church?
right.
That's my
I'm trying
question.
to answer. I'm trying to answer the question.
Thank you.
If I looked at all of the churches, I mean all of the churches in Scotland and in Wales and in England, I would say there are very few churches that I could attend personally that I wouldn't know somebody who would know somebody in the churches in Scotland, England, and Wales. I would know somebody who would know somebody in all of the churches within the UK.
Okay.
Okay, so the answers that they will give, sorry, just a minute, Virginia. The answers that they will give is based on their own experience with the women that they've had experience with. So that's the only thing that they could answer to. Virginia, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I may, when you ask the question about their personal experience, my understanding is that the answers they're giving is their personal experience.
That's it.
They could not have connected with a million ladies. So for me, I see it as their own experience, even though they may have said the woman, but the question was personal experience. So I took it that it's their personal experience rather than a generalization of a situation. That's how I understood it.
Okay, Angel?
Hi, I just think that we need to be careful when we're generalizing here, especially if you haven't visited other churches and you've only have an opinion from what you've seen from your own church kind of thing. Like, Seventh-day Adventism, as you know, we have churches in Wales, Scotland, and in London. And I feel like unless you've seen multiple different churches, then you can generalize, a general conception. But I think if you haven't done that, you haven't really given a real view. And
Angela, did you hear the answer that I gave you?
yeah, no, I heard the answer that you gave me, and I understand like why you feel the way that you feel.
But what you
Because
asked
you
the question
haven't been able
was, have I
to,
visited other churches? And
yeah, and
I've
you
lived
said
in
that
London.
you haven't.
No, I didn't say that. I said no. That's not true. That I might have misunderstood. You might have misunderstood what I've said. What I said was all of the churches in Scotland, all of the churches in Wales, and all of the churches in the UK. You put them all together, and I would say that I could visit the majority of the churches in Scotland, Wales, and England, and I would know somebody who would know somebody in those churches. I feel that confident of the amount of people I know within the conferences.
Okay. I still stand on the same opinion, which is that unless because the way I'm viewing and understanding this whole, like, getting to meet the person that will be your person, unless you widen your circle and you visit other churches, then you get to be around different people of different mindsets and things like that. And there might be a closed mindset in Scotland, and that could be just people in Scotland. You know, I'm from West Croydon. We're very open. We have people in our church from different communities, you know, and we are happy to welcome different conversations and things like that.
When you say West Croydon, I've been to New Addington and I've been to Croydon Church. When you say West Croydon, what church is? What are you talking about? West Croydon?
Next to Selhurst.
It's
No,
different to Croydon. There are two
but I haven't
churches.
been to, I've been
It's
to New
Yeah,
different
there's
to
two
Addington.
Croydon.
churches. So there's Croydon and there's West Croydon. That's right.
I've never been to
Yeah.
West Croydon, but I've been to New Addington.
Yeah,
and
West
I've been to
Croydon and Croydon Church is the same church, like very close.
They're close to each
There's
other,
two
but
separate
different
buildings, isn't
pastors.
it?
Yeah, different pastors. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to the questions. The men are answering questions based on their personal experiences.
Okay, so my question is, and it remains the same. My question is, like, all of us are seeking to find someone in the same faith, you know, and that's what we want. Do you think that there's more that we could do to kind of make that work? Because I've seen it work with other people. Like I've seen it work with Beckenham. I've seen it work in East London and stuff like that. So I know that it works. And I do know for a fact, in terms of having those conversations, whether it's romantic or like those deeper conversations, we do as a church try to like promote those things more. Like, and I do think that the more that you visit other churches, you will see that. You know, like we put a lot of emphasis in our youth days and our AYS to get people to connect with each other. Yeah, I don't know. Because I feel sad, honestly, like hearing his perspective on his conversations with people, because I know that's not how my church is. And in my church specifically, West Croydon, there's people that are there that are Indian and, you know, from Afghanistan and things like that. And you would never think people like that even go to church. So I know that we welcome any kind of conversation. So I kind of felt upset that he felt that there's some conversations that you can't have, where I know that the more that you kind of spread your wings, you would see that different churches are different.
Okay,
Yeah.
can I respond to that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm looking for somebody that is an active Adventist. So I'm not looking for somebody just attends church. One of the questions I would ask in getting to know somebody is what they do in church, because I think there are too many people that come and sit down and go home again. One of the things I also don't do, although I've attended a lot of churches within the UK, I tend to spend a lot more time in my church and then go out. So I don't sort of go for, I'm not a butterfly. I don't go from church to church to church to church. I think there's work to be done in my particular church, and I spend a lot of time there. Having said that, though, I do visit other churches. I've got car, diesel, and off I go. So I'm mindful. I'm mindful that when I ask somebody what, I will always ask what they do in church, and it's a big bonus for me for somebody to say, I'm doing this in church and I'm doing that. It's a big bonus for me.
Okay, we've got a question from Sharon.
Everyone, it's not so much a question, but just an observation now. Okay, yeah. What I was saying is that thank you, gentlemen, for being willing to open up and share. We may not like what they're saying because but it's what they are seeing and what they observe. I mean, I am a divorcee. I have a son who is 27. He's a very gentle, very spiritual young man. But I know that his experience with the women within our church, some of them have been quite abrasive, and we have to sort of look at if we're raising daughters or how we actually come over with our brothers. And I think if we are Christ-like in how we treat each other, some of this misunderstanding or the abrasion that comes through communications will be less. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Julie, go ahead.
Sorry, I came in and I came late. Good evening, everyone. What was the question? Because I want to be a part of this conversation. I have an idea. What was the question? Am I being cheeky if I ask what's the question?
No, I'm not sure which question we've asked a few. So I think the last question was really about dating outside the church compared to inside the church.
Right.
So they were giving their personal experience between the two.
Right.
So it's not a general response. It was their personal experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
So like I am 30 right now, and I have been in church all my life. My brother's been in church. My brother's an elder. My dad is a pastor. Like I am like proper in the church kind of thing. And it is really, really hard to date in the church. Sorry, I was saying that so yeah, I'm born seventh day, and my brother is an elder, my dad was a pastor, and so like I'm around people strong of faith kind of thing. And I feel that in terms of my experience trying to date in church, I feel like it's taboo. I feel like people feel like when you're in church, you're in church. I don't feel like people think that you can be in church and want to date somebody, like kind of thing. Like I feel like if I was to say to somebody, "Oh, I want to see if we could be a couple," they'll be like, "Oh my God, are you seriously thinking like that? Oh my goodness, it's still Sabbath kind of thing." And that's my experience, like where, people generally think that, you can't have those thoughts and feelings in church kind of thing. And yeah, which is obviously what led me to this whole situation in terms of like joining this Zoom call and everything. Because I do think it's kind of hard because you want to marry eventually someone that is a practicing Seventh-day Adventist, but it's really hard to kind of initiate that conversation in real life. As much as you would want to, you can't really do it. Like if I was to do it, I know, if I'm telling you from personal experience, people find it a bit intimidating. They're like, "Oh, I don't know, because we're in church. Should we really be having this conversation?" And that's like normally what kind of happens. Like, "Oh, I don't think we should be talking like that. Let's just like worship God kind of thing. Let's not talk about that kind of thing." That's my experience.
Okay.
It just kind of seems wrong in terms of like, oh, let's talk about maybe that could be a thing. But yeah, that's been my experience. People really feel like ashamed to talk about the concept of relationships. As much as we want people to form relationships in church, I don't think the church is as welcoming around that agenda, because it's like we're in church. You know what I mean? Like, let's have reverence in the place of God,
Okay, so it sounds to me like the men are having issues and the women are also. So does anyone have a solution as to what she just said? You see someone in church and you'd like to speak to them. What would you suggest? Deidre?
Oh, well, I was going to respond to something else.
Okay.
Remember now. I was just going to say, it sounds like as a church, we need, I don't know if we call it education, we need to educate, ourselves, or be more open to, we need to have these open, necessary conversations. If we want to build families, if we want to build a stable church. So it starts from the head of the church, I would say, and feeds down, because the men have said that from their experience, women are not open enough, the ladies that they have come across, and and I can relate to, I've seen it, is it Angels who have said that, some things are just not talked about in church. I know some people are open and, and are happy to talk about certain things, but you don't hear certain things from the desk, or, and our young people also these conversations needs to be had with our young people who are coming up as well, so that they can understand and learn how to build and have healthy relationships, because otherwise it just can just grow into, a sort of a church with a lot of single men and single women later on, when that could be avoided. And if we want to maintain a strong church, we need to promote and educate and support relationships. So I think that could be one of the, that could be a solution, but it's, how we go about that.
Can I jump in there?
Go ahead.
Who was this? I can't see the name of the person that was speaking just before that last sister.
Was that Angel? I think it was Angel.
Okay, good. That's what I was trying to say earlier on, Angel. I think we're of a certain age, and I think it's incumbent on us as individuals to try and build relationships and rapport with those we come into contact with. I don't think we can leave it to the leadership. A lot of the leadership are married. We're all on this group of a certain age, and as much as we would like it, the church isn't going to make any provision for us. That's for us to do. That's for me to do. I see somebody and I will approach you and try and talk to you in the spirit of a friend. I approach you in the spirit of friendship. And if things can move forward, so they will. But it's too late for, we're not teenagers. The church has an AY department that we have all outgrown. The majority of us have outgrown. And so it's for us to take and say, who are you? What are you about? Tell me something about yourself. And it's amazing how many people go, oh, I can't tell you about myself unless, and seriously, I remember going for a walk in Sutton Park with a sister, and I said, tell me about yourself. I can't tell you about myself because I need to hold your hand while we talk. Well, you're not going to hold my hand, because if anybody came along and saw you holding my hand, they would make an assumption that we are an item. And I don't want to give you the wrong idea. I don't want anybody else to get the wrong idea. I'm just here talking to get to know who you are. There's no conditions. We're just friends. We're just walking. And there's no arm in arm connection. Tell me something about who you are.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lennox. Deidre?
Yes, I wanted to say, yes, so I hear Lennox's point, but when I talked about the leadership of the church, I wasn't just talking about us now as sort of middle age or even sort of older young people. I was thinking about the young people who are coming up. And when I say the leaders of the church, even though they're married, we have family life directors, we have those individuals, youth leaders, and so forth, who have, this is a part of their responsibility. But in terms of individuals, I agree, that, just as how we seek opportunities to develop ourselves, we need to think about, okay, where we are and where we're at now, and what are our goals, or what we would like, and how we can achieve those things, and and work on ourselves to achieve those. So I agree with that. But on the other hand, the leaders do still have a responsibility, because it's not just us who are going through. We have those who are coming, and we have to think that's the future of the church, well, the present and the future of the church. So in terms of that, they do have a responsibility, I believe.
Can I jump in there again?
Go ahead.
One of the things that I find disappointing about the singles groups as they exist currently is how inactive they are. We're all single. We're all supposedly looking for a relationship, but there's very little activity. We're leaving it to somebody else to do. We're leaving it for the leadership. We're getting older as time goes on. If you look at the groups since lockdown, and we leave it, we've put on a couple of meals, and Beulah's put on a couple. Beulah stopped doing it. You speak to Beulah and ask why, and she will tell you. And if you look, and Eve has put on a couple of sessions, but nobody seems to want to take the bull by the horns and say, let me do something. Let me get this involved. Let me do something. It's all about leaving it. And we get a year older, and there's so little activity that takes place within all of the singles groups that exist in church. It's disappointing.
Go ahead, Virginia.
I think sometimes it's interesting to look at our motive behind what we do. So, for example, I'm making reference to today's topic, single and searching. And I guess this is what we're here for. This is what I'm here for. If I'm to be if let's say someone finds interest in me in terms of wanting to get to know me, because that's the starting point, my take on this is I don't mind a phone call and then take it from there. I don't mind a message and then take it from there. I suppose it's all of the conversation that followed, that came on before I spoke, were interesting. But I think getting to the nitty-gritty of today's topic, single and searching, it's important to use the resources we have. For example, we've come on, we've shared, and then looking at other options where we could develop ourselves, where we could make programs suitable for our needs. And it is possible, but I guess whatever is our motive behind attending, etc., that is what would make the difference with our responses.
Okay, thank you, Sharon.
Okay, don't shoot me down. Currently, I belong to an online Christian dating group. They're not Adventists, but God gave me that mission to try and create spaces for us to meet up on this group. So twice a month, I've organized the study of the Proverbs. What does the Proverbs mean to us as Christians living in the modern world? And
sounds interesting.
We delve in it, and then a second time within the month, I will do an online meetup where we paint, and I will send out images, and we just come and we talk about faith. Now, I know the responses of Christians outside my church. They have been really quite charitable, because it's a free activity that we do. We meet, the group I'll have like 60 people saying that they're coming, but maybe we might get about 5 to 10, but we meet and we talk. My nervousness about providing that same experience within my own church is that I find sometimes we're really hypercritical about each other. And I don't get that experience outside my faith, which is really sad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amen. Yes. Where are you based, Sharon?
Where am I based? I'm
Mm.
based in Luton.
Mm-hmm.
We've met. We met at the dinner.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So let's get back to the questions. I think what we needed was for Lennox to answer. Of the women that you've spoken to, why do you think there hasn't been any results or a relationship starting from your contact?
I would say, if I reflect back, the majority of the relationships I've been in since I came back to church have all been with women that have had children, and a little way into the relationship, it transpires that they're still involved with the baby daddy. I think it's all except one relationship actually that I've been involved with that hasn't happened. So that's one of the reasons.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to say about their personal relationships or dating any of the men? Okay, so I think so far the summary has been that it is a bit difficult to communicate with each other. So I do know that there's been issues with, especially the single ladies putting a picture on their profile on WhatsApp and then having an issue if a gentleman asks for a picture. Has any of the ladies had an issue with providing a picture or uploading a picture on their WhatsApp profiles?
Do you mean like a personal WhatsApp profile, or is there a singles WhatsApp group that you're referring to, Eve?
No, it's the same profile picture that goes, once you upload a picture on your WhatsApp profile, that's it.
I think for me, Eve, may I speak?
Go ahead.
I think for me, if I'm honest, if it's for the group sessions that you're referring to, I've always put a photo on my profile, on my information that you have requested.
On WhatsApp.
On WhatsApp.
Yes.
I don't have a photo. However, if there is a program that requests photo, my photo is always on from the beginning.
Is that on Zoom?
On Zoom.
Okay,
like we hear now. But if and my photo, there's a photo of me on our group chat. So that's there for everyone to see. I don't have any issues with, having my photo on, my video on, etc. So my photo is always available.
Okay. So on WhatsApp, there is a profile. It has nothing to do with the group itself. Just on WhatsApp, you upload a picture on the WhatsApp profile. And if you're in a group, anyone in that group is able to see it.
Mine's there.
Okay. So I was just asking, is there anyone who has an issue with either putting the picture on? And if they do, if a gentleman asks for a picture of what they look like, do they have an issue with providing that picture? Okay, no response to that one. Okay.
I think for me, Eve, like I love photos, so I take a lot of photos myself and everything, butterfly, everything, right? So I always have photos on my status, on my profile, whatever. But what I find is that some people might ask, or a guy might ask, okay, my photo is there, but they want more photos, and that you sort of wonder, okay, why do you want more photos like at this stage, when there's a profile photo, there are status videos and all of that stuff. So yeah, but I'm generally quite okay sharing my photos. I share it anyway.
But if you've got a photo on there, if I can respond, I mean, guys are visual. Maybe the photo there doesn't provide enough information. You know, I mean, if you remember the prophet Samuel said, God looks at the heart, but men look on the outward appearance.
Can I pause you there, my brother? Clearly, you're not one of my friends on my status. Because if you know me, like anybody who's on here who knows me and has you know me, I do share a lot of photos.
Yeah, she's
I
very
use photos for
photogenic.
yes, and I've been complimented for my photos, so I do have to stop you there when it comes to me. I do have a lot of and suitable photos on there.
No, I haven't seen.
Yeah.
I apologize. I haven't seen your photo.
That's okay. That's okay.
I would say sometimes people do have a picture up, but it's a picture from 5, 10, however many years ago. So that person might just be asking for an up-to-date. Maybe that's what they should say. Have you got an up-to-date photo, or is the photo on your profile an up-to-date profile photo? That might be what they need to ask for.
Well, again, that's not
Sarah?
the case with me, but for some people it might be, yeah.
Sahara?
Yeah, I have a picture on my profile, and I think I've said it before, you know, with the WhatsApp profile pictures, it's not necessarily there for the purpose of this one group. You know, profile pictures are there for a multitude of different reasons, you know, for family, other friends, that sort of thing. But the bottom line is I don't have an issue with having a picture on there. What I do have an issue with when men have asked for a profile picture is the approach. You know, the message, there's no introduction whatsoever, no hello, this is so and so from so and so, you know, a basic how are you, hello, introductions, you know, and then you can get to the point of, oh, okay, you know, maybe at that point my profile picture is of my children. Have you got a profile picture? Because really and truly, when you know, you've asked us to upload our intros, which has a profile picture and all the background information, I suppose it depends on which point the person has come into the group that's asking, but that there's a picture that's there. But I think the main issue for me is the approach. It's not a correct approach in the first instance, which I think some people need to be mindful of. Just basic hello, my name is, I'm from, so that you know exactly who it is that you're speaking to. And then I think you can get to that stage. Yes, I appreciate men are visual people. I think women are too. You want to know who you're speaking to, but you know, you want a proper introduction and know who it is you're speaking to before you start sharing your pictures and with people, because you just want to know who it is you're talking to. And I think that there's a choice that I've made in terms of this group is I used to have my profile picture restricted to just contacts only, but I had to open it up so that people within this group would be able to see my profile picture. So that's a choice that I made. So I think that should just be borne in mind as well. You know, that if you want to be quite a private person, it's quite a big step to then go and open up your WhatsApp profile account so that the world can see. Because it's not only just this group, it's every other group who that you're part of, people that you come across in a business context, you know, that you don't necessarily need them or want them to have your pictures, but because you want to be able to participate in groups like this, you have to open up your profile picture. Some people that might be not an issue because they're on social media and everything anyway. I'm not, so that is an issue for me. But the idea of being part of this group and making the most of that and trying to participate in as much as I can so that people can see who I am. You know, I chose to open it up so that my profile picture was there. But yeah, I think the initial thing is correct approach, basic introduction.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I would say one thing, the men, please note, because this is not the first time this has been mentioned, when someone approaches, you need to clarify, how did you get the number, who you are, what, make some kind of initial conversation before talking about a picture. And then sometimes, as Lennox did say, sometimes it's difficult to know how to approach the ladies, because sometimes you never know what they're going to say in response. But I do think that at least introduce yourself, so it seems as if you know how to basically carry a conversation. Just an introduction would be nice. Susan, hope I said it right this time.
No, it's Suzanne, but okay.
Oh,
All right, you get it wrong again. Never mind, never mind.
go ahead.
So let me just start with saying this. In my experience, the vast majority of Adventist men that I come across are polite and friendly and approachable. Unfortunately, the ones who approach me are not those ones. And I'm kind of echoing what's the lady's name? Sahara said, and what you just said in terms of it's just basic manners. So one in particular rang me. Now, he just rang me, so I don't know where he's got my number from, and just started a conversation. Didn't say, oh, I got your number because we're in the same group, and then just went on and on and on and on and on. And I thought, I mean, I could have just hung up the phone, but I just thought, because I kind of clocked he was Adventist, I thought, okay, let me kind of give him a little bit of a chance. And then eventually he said, oh, it was from the group. And I thought, that was incredibly poor communication skills, particularly as a man approaching a woman. Women have to be careful. You don't know which man is calling you. So that to me, I didn't understand what the thinking was behind that approach. Maybe it wasn't much thinking behind that approach. And then he proceeded to tell me about things he did in the church, which was fine, and then tried to get a booking to do some stuff at my church. And I thought, so straight out the gate, you want me to go and do something for you? And I just thought, it's just the approach is just all wrong. It's just, to me, it just needs to be just basic manners. And then sometimes they call you and they don't have a profile picture. And then the name, obviously it's not somebody I would necessarily know. I don't memorize the name of every single last person who's in a particular group. So the challenge is there's no photo. So it's not like, I mean, the guys I've seen on here, I'd remember if I saw their picture somewhere else. But if there's no profile picture, how am I supposed to know who it is? And then I understand what Sahara's saying about not everybody uses their phone just for this group. But I mean, the least you can do is know who you're talking to. Is that a big ask? Just basic manners and who you're talking to. I really don't think that's a big ask.
Okay, okay. I was going to speak in general. I know that every woman is different, but I know that every woman have everything in common. What are the things that a woman like? They want honesty. They want to be appreciated. You mean little things, And I guess if we start on those things, it can go a far way, How we approach and honesty and things like that, And then, that can go a far way. I'm just speaking in general, Telling myself that as well, you know, just little things, And
Okay.
then
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Okay, so we'll go back to Eric. what are you looking for in a woman? Any of the other men who are on, but we'll go to Eric first to answer this question. What are you looking for in a woman?
I'm looking for somebody that's similar age to me, so 50-ish, early 50s, maybe late 40s. Looking for somebody that is that looks after themselves, as in quite sporty or athletic, I think, is somebody that takes a keen interest in exercise. And then Adventist. I think that's the main criteria. I don't think I've got any sort of strict things that I would think of that come to mind that I'm looking for. As I said, just somebody that's into sport or into exercise, into looking after themselves. Yeah, and that's the only criteria. Apart from that, it's I'm open to anybody that fills those criteria. So I think it's I'm open-minded really as to looking for somebody.
Okay, thank you. Lennox?
I'm looking for somebody who can understand the 4-4-2 system and they can explain the offside rule coherently.
Say that again, please, Lennox. I didn't hear that bit.
Okay,
Sorry, say that again, please.
somebody that can understand the 4-4-2 formation and is able to understand the offside rule.
What does that mean? The
There you
four.
go. There you go. You're missing out now, sis.
I am missing out. I think you're saying it a bit fast.
He's saying numbers, 4-4-2 formation.
Uh-huh.
4-4-2 formation. What's that then?
Football.
You're very interesting. You are.
Somebody that has the ability to communicate. I'm looking for a partner that can communicate and wants to communicate. Nothing more,
Okay,
nothing
then.
less than that.
Thank you, guys, so far.
Okay, we got Ruben. Ruben?
Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's been an interesting conversation there. I seem to be a bit lost at some point, but I'm back now.
Okay, Ruben, what are you looking for in a woman?
Well, someone who can understand that unconditional love is not unconditional tolerance. That's all.
Okay, I didn't hear the last part.
Someone who can understand that unconditional love is not unconditional tolerance. That's all.
Okay.
I think the last bit getting lost. Maybe I don't know.
I didn't hear it either.
Is it unconditional
the last bit
tolerance,
is-
he said?
Yes.
Say that again.
Unconditional tolerance, he said.
So unconditional love is not unconditional tolerance. Is that what was said?
Yes.
What does that
Can you
mean?
clarify, please?
Well, what I mean is that each one of us should understand that there should be limits to how far we should go in terms of things. If I do not communicate very well, somebody's not going to tolerate that in my life. If I do things deliberate, somebody's not going to always say, okay, because I love you, let it go. No. Somebody must always be willing to pay up the price for not doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay, then.
Are you saying then that you're willing to go the extra mile, or is the other person needs to go the extra mile? I'm not clear.
We both have to go an extra mile in everything. Yes, you know where love has reached nowadays is almost a woman and a man always wants to go 50-50, and it is never like that. One should be willing to give more, and maybe at a particular day another person should be willing to give more, depending on how things are moving.
Are you willing to make the first step?
Yes, always a man should always take that.
Okay. What about turning the other cheek? I mean, how does that work in a relationship for you?
Well, it's I've not had a lot of relationships, to be honest, but I think I've been more of an understanding person, and I let things slide a lot of times, and in so many occasions. So
Okay, anyone else? Rhett?
Well, I'm not putting up a very high criteria, just somebody similar my age, somebody that I can get along with, you know, not too demanding. I try to, you know, just ordinary, not because I'm not really a fussy person, right? I'm not, you know, just somebody who I can, you know, just level with. Well, Christian, yes, we know that. You know, just you know.
Are you saying, brother, you're not going to make any demands on the sister in your life?
Well, demands when it depends, but if it's any demands, it's not much. I'm not, you know, you know.
Is that a yes or a no?
Just honesty and you know, right? If you know, if there's any little demands, it's either worth mention it. You know, there might be demands, but not that oh, it's too demanding. I will make what's the word to use? I can make compromise. I just say you sometimes go the extra mile. I will do that, you know. But it works both ways, you know. Yeah. I
Okay,
mean, because we try to appreciate each other, you know. I have faults, she may have faults, and then we try to, you know, that's you know, accept the person as there is, and you know, that's me.
okay, so
I may not have all the answers as I'm speaking now, but you know, you know what? Yeah.
okay, so can I ask, in dating, we've heard quite a few of the women say they're looking for men who have qualifications. I've even heard a woman say, I am looking for a pastor. Women are looking for men who are high earners. Is this something that the men are also looking for?
No, I think the research shows that a man's finances supports the family, whereas a woman's finances supports herself. So men are providers. But I think the group seems to be of an age where we're past the child rearing thing, and we're looking. I can't see anybody here. If they're in a similar position to myself, the child rearing thing is those days are gone. So how important is the finances? Somebody that is solvent. I don't think you want to get involved with somebody that has too many debts. And I think at our age and our backgrounds, most Adventists wouldn't be in a lot of debt unless there's been some big issue in the past. So I think most of us will be solvent, not necessarily high earners, whatever you define a high earner as. But I think most of us would be solvent.
Okay, so I could understand someone wanting somebody who is working. The issue that I have is when someone says, I want a pastor or I want a doctor. I've had a gentleman said to me, well, someone contacted me and for some reason she thought I was a doctor. And when she found out I wasn't a doctor, she wasn't interested. So it would appear that it's not the person that they're interested in, it's the qualification that they've got. So they want to be the wife of a doctor or the wife of a pastor, which I think is so wrong. Go
I've got a
ahead.
car.
Eve,
I've got a
can I
car.
come in? Can I
I've got a
come
car.
in
I've got a
here?
car. Yep. Okay.
Can I come in here, please, Eve?
Yes, go ahead.
I personally don't think it's wrong to state your interest, because if people know your interest up front, we will be respectful to people's interest. If I say, look, I want a doctor, and I'm sharing this, you know, decently, professionally, I don't see a problem with that. I prefer to know upfront that this is your interest. And, I'm maximizing my time with who I spend it with the launches I make forward towards finding somebody. So if you say you want a certain professional group, I don't think that's a problem as long as you say it decently and professionally. Yeah, that's how I see it.
Okay.
I think it's sometimes what you bring to the table. I've spoken with sisters, and they say, "Well, look, I don't have any qualifications, but I'm a homemaker. I will keep the home tidy, and that's my thing. I will support you, and that's what I have to offer." So I don't think there's anything wrong with putting your best foot forward, and even though you don't have any academic qualifications, you can still bring something to the table. I think being honest is always good.
But if you say you want anyone, you're open-minded, that is the same as saying, I want a pastor or I want a doctor. You're stating an interest. That's the same.
But I think in
there's
terms of in terms of relationships, having somebody that has a professional mindset isn't a bad thing. Somebody that has a disciplined mind isn't a bad thing. But not everybody should go to university. Not everybody can go to university. And we are this group is past that stage of building and forming. We're past that. I mean, I think we're all in our beyond 40s, beyond 45. So those sort of
Not
things.
everyone.
Well, apart from yourself, Eve. We're all past the 40-something stage. So those developmental things are gone.
Okay, Julie has something to say.
Right, I wasn't going to agree with some of the points that Lennox made, but sometimes I believe you could be missing out on something if you say you want this. There's nothing wrong in saying that you want X, Y, and Z, but sometimes you could be missing out, because I've heard a lot of men say, I want a woman who can sing. And sometimes God might give you someone who can sew, and just because that person may have a profession or they're highly educated, it doesn't mean they're going to treat you good. There's no guarantee they're going to treat you good. You want someone who loves God and who will treat you good. And also the other question is, you want X, Y, and Z. What can you bring to the table?
That's right.
What can you bring to the table? Don't come with your two plastic bag to me and telling me that you want a person who's a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, and you're going to come to me with your two plastic bag. Don't do that.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we're looking at different things here. I rather know upfront that I am not investing my time in somebody who wants, for example, a pilot. I'm not going to be a pilot. So if I know that up front, I know we're not going to we might not
But sometimes you could miss out on your blessing. I hear what you're saying, but you could miss out.
That's your loss. That's your loss, Julie. That's okay. That's your loss. So if I know, I'm thinking of me, if I know what you want, you invest in time and other resources. If I know you want a pilot and I'm going out, we are checking each other out, and I know upfront you want a pilot. I'm not going to be a pilot. Therefore, I know I'm not going to be meeting that criteria. My point is, even though that person might lose the opportunity, that's okay. That's their wishes. That's based on their wishes. So there's no hard feelings. There's nothing wrong in
Yeah.
knowing
So
what
Virginia,
I
one.
Virginia, if
understand.
you,
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Virginia,
was going to
if you,
say so. I understand that, but if you meet somebody and they tick about at least 85% of what you want, but they're not that pilot, I'm just saying, you're going to let that opportunity go. Honestly, you meet that person, that person's 85% of everything you wanted. He ticks all the boxes, but because he doesn't have that profession that you want, you're gonna let that go.
so Virginia,
Yes.
you might not be able to fly a jumbo jet. Can you fly a helicopter?
Maybe I'll try enough, but that's no guarantee.
So you're gonna crash and burn? Is that what you're saying, sis?
That might happen because I'm not a pilot, am I?
Can I just say, I think it depends on the reason why I think it depends on the motive of, the person, why they want this particular person, whether it be for career matters or whatever. Is it because they believe that someone in a certain career can have a certain level of conversation and they're a conversationalist? So I think it depends on the motive. And I think also we have to remember that, as Christians, we have to allow God to be our pilot and God to lead, because we might have this idea of what we want and what's good for us, but God wants and knows what is best for us. So we have to also be open and say, God, okay, this is what I want, but have your way. And God might bring us somebody else, And I've heard testimonies of successful marriages where someone was looking for this, but this came and they knew it was God, and it turned out that this was what was best for them. So I personally believe, and which is something that I've started to do, just started to be, more open-minded, and also to trust the process and, trust all of this, in God's hands.
Yeah.
I just want to share a quick story. A friend of mine, she put herself on a dating site, and I suggested that particular dating site. She met someone on a dating site, and the guy said to her, she's a gardener. She said, she's a teacher, qualified teacher, and she's training to be an educational psychologist. But and the guy said to her, he is a gardener, and she was like, okay then, and she just continued talking to him. And as time went on, then he revealed he was a pastor. Now, if she said, I don't want to continue talking to you because you're a gardener, she would have missed out. I don't feel he didn't want her to know that he is a pastor, because I'm not being funny. A lot of women in the church do tend to go after pastors. They like that status, they like that position, And I said to her, look at that. I'm so glad that you gave that guy a chance. She never just looked down on him because he's a gardener, and he is a big time pastor. And I'm really, really happy for her. So sometimes we could be missing out, or sometimes God could be testing us, and he's a gardener of the gospel. Yeah, and he does do gardening. He does gardening at the side, but he didn't reveal to her that he's a pastor. And I think that was the best step that he made.
That's true. That's my point, because if you're looking at the job title, then getting to know the person, you might be blinded by the job title. And then you might see red flags and decide I'm going ahead anyway because he's a doctor and there are not many doctors around, or there are not many available pastors around. Because I do know that there are single men in the church, but they might not have the qualification that the women are looking for. So you will see many, there are no men around, but there are men around. So what is the reason? Someone was saying something?
But I think someone made a really interesting point a little while ago. I think is it Deidre made a point and the way I understand it, I might not quote it exactly, is that people want certain qualities for different purposes. You know, I might want someone who is sporty because, you know, when you find people with similar traits, it does complement a relationship at times. And it's not to say that you might really lose out, but maybe, you know, whatever happens as a result. But I think it's a very important point to bear in mind when people share some of the attributes that they're looking for, you know, in a relationship.
Okay, any other points? Okay, so when the issue of video calling, you know, we've had, I'm not sure if all of you are aware of this, but there's been incidences of men possibly asking women for pictures. And so there are women who would send pictures that are not of their faces. And
sorry, I didn't mean to be, I didn't mean to laugh. I just, that's not really funny, is it?
yes.
Sorry about that.
So
You mean what I think you mean?
yes.
Oh,
What do you mean, Eve? Clarify. Do you mean like headless photos or of inappropriate parts of their bodies?
Inappropriate.
I see.
All right.
Okay.
So you would not think that Christian women would do things like this, but they do that.
Mhm.
And so what are the men supposed to do with this? Because on one side, you have women saying, oh, we want godly men, but then you have women who are not being godly. So, and then you might have the men who are actually asking for those kind of photos. So these are issues that are affecting people in the church. And sometimes I think, why are these men not being put forward for certain positions? And it's because either they've led others astray or, you know, the women have led them astray. So I think that the singles really have a duty to look after one another, because you are aware when you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. Susan, you have a point? Suzanne, there you go.
yeah, you got it right. Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to give an example that's similar to what you're saying and to kind of show how I would deal with it. It wasn't quite as extreme as that, but there was a particular pastor that kept calling me to see how I am. So I thought he was just checking up on me to see how I am, because at the time when he did it, I had been in hospital. So he was just checking to see how I was. And then as it went on, I thought, it's been a bit regular with the calling. It's like every week. And then the conversation, he started to tell me how his wife doesn't understand him and all this business. And I just thought, I must think that some people these women in the church are stupid. So then he went on to say, you know, I know you cook and I really would, I've never had your cooking. I said, yeah, I know you haven't. He goes, I would really love to taste your cooking. I went, okay. And he kept going on about it. I said, look, you need to focus on your wife's cooking. You know that. Focus on your wife's cooking, not mine. He said, no, 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 no. I wasn't trying to say anything. I said, I'm not trying to say anything. I'm just telling you straight. Focus on your wife's cooking. That's all you need to focus on. Then, so I blocked him and deleted his number. Then I visited a church, and unfortunately, he happened to be preaching there. So what I did is, as soon as they said the final amen after the sermon, I left. He called me on another number and said, oh, I was hoping to catch you after the sermon. I was just seeing if you were okay because you left straight away. I said, yes, I'm perfectly fine. And I said, so, but why did you think you needed to call me? No, no, no. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. That's just how I am. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. I said, I'm perfectly fine. And I blocked him again. Now, for me, sometimes you have to be firm and send a strong message. I am not going down that road. And if I see him now, I'll be polite, but no, if he calls me, no, because at the end of the day, I'm not stupid. I know the direction he's trying to go in, and I'm not going there. And I think you have to stand firm on what you believe, whether you're male or female. If I'm a man and I got pictures of some woman's parts, block and delete the number and ask the Lord to that she'll find Jesus, because she clearly lost him and lost their mind too. And the same if it was a woman, if the man sends you pictures of part, put your foot down. What kind of nastiness is this in the church? No, stamp it out.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Oh no, I can give you a story where this guy, he's not a well-known singer, but he's a singer, and he said to me, a married man, he said to me, I dreamt you last night, we were dating. I said, what do you mean by this? Does your wife know? You know, and I had to, as Suzanne said, you just have to stamp it out, let them know. They feel that because you're on your own, they feel that you would just go with any and anybody. No, that's not the case.
And sorry, can I quickly say, as you get older, they think that, oh, time's running out for you, so you'll pick up any and any. No, no.
Okay, good. That is a good state of mind to be in, to be contented. I think it's important to be whole as a single person, because if you're in desperate need of someone to fill some role in your life, then that's an issue. Because then again, as I said before, you'll see red flags and then you think, okay, well, this person's interested, I might as well just go ahead. So
can I respond? Don't know what's happened to my reaction to put hand up. I think at this point in our lives, we have to recognize that Jesus is going to come soon, and we need to start practicing sexual purity, and that we are accountable for how we dress, how we appear, how we speak in all our communications. And if someone comes to you in that type of behaviors that they're, like my sisters are approaching, there is no point communicating with these people. You literally, you run, you block, because there's certain sins that Satan wants to find in God's people, and sexual sins is something that's quite prevalent within our church. And none of these things should be found in God's people. And as singles, regardless of what our age is, if God has given us a sex drive, he will monitor that sex drive.
good. I also think as well, when we practice to basically abstain from certain things, even something as simple as fasting, or even if you're a vegetarian and you see something that you used to eat, you practice just denying that to yourself. It all helps with self-control. So if we have Christians who are not used to denying themselves things, then it's easier for them to say yes to things like sexual immorality. So I think that is a point that is very important to take a look at.
Can I make a point while
ahead.
we're on the subject? I think I agree with all the sisters' comments there, but my experience of saying what's gone on personally with me in church, I remember a while back, short version, I went to visit this sister on invitation and got chased around the front room. And at church, I said to the guy, "This is what happened to me," and everybody laughed at it. If that sister had said Lennox had come to visit me and he chased me around the house, everybody in church would have gone, "Oh, the men in church." Da, 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 da. When it's reversed, it's seen as humorous.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was just you, Lennox. It doesn't matter. And that is my personal experience of, if you say that's not what I'm looking for, and if you share that with the brethren, they go, oh, ha 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 ha, wow, how funny that is. But women in church, they can say one thing, and if the man says, well, that happened to me, it's taken less seriously when a guy says, no, that happened to me. I've had people send photos, and it's like, what are you doing? But if a man asks, I haven't requested your swimsuit, but I've got it. But when you say, hey, this is what happened, it's more in humor than if it's done in reverse.
But the attitude should actually be the same, because it's the same issue happening to a human being. So that's quite sad, isn't it?
It never is.
But the people laughing, I would find their attitude questionable, because it's not funny. And you're quite right. If it was the other way around, people will start throwing their hands up and going, oh, what kind of man is that? It works both ways. And I think if people are laughing,
but it doesn't work both ways, though. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work both ways, but
it doesn't work both ways.
It doesn't work both ways, but it should.
It should be both ways.
It should be, but it doesn't work that way.
And people laughing, no, it's disrespectful. I mean, some people, they just need to fix up. It's just ridiculous.
Okay, so I would say at this point, the things we've identified so far is basically singles need to communicate better with each other. Introductions, being able to speak about things that has to do with relationship, singleness, or expressing your interest. So if we were to look at expressing interest in someone, if you're at church, as someone brought up before, and someone's interested in you, what do you suggest that they do?
Can I answer?
Go ahead.
For me personally, I think my experience of being born and raised in an Adventist church, most people are very friendly. And I think for me, if they start off just being friendly and just getting to know me as a friend, that to me is fine, because a lot of a strong friendship can lead to a relationship. But for me to just right out the gate, yes, let's go and date, and you don't know the person from Adam, you don't know. Personally, I think is getting to know that person as a friend, and the approach can just be just casual. Just say, oh, I saw you on here, just like to get to know you. Can we just communicate? That's it. Simple. It doesn't mean I'm looking for wedding ring next week or any rubbish like that. I just, I'm just being friendly. Just being friendly. Approach them in the way you would want to be approached. Just be
If they're
friendly.
not from your church, if someone's visiting your church and they'd like to express interest, how would they do that?
Just come up and say hello. Say, oh, hi, I'm Bob from whatever church. I'm new here. Just thought I'd say hello. Then just start like that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Sister Suzanne. Yeah, there's no rejection in friendship. If I approach you as a potential boyfriend, and then you say not interested, then that's rejection. Whereas if I approach you in the spirit of friendship, there is no rejection, and there's nothing for me to feel bad about. If you say, well, no, not what I'm looking for. It's we're all on the level playing field if we approach each other as friends.
So I also wanted to add, from my personal experience in the church, is I have friends who are both male and female, and I find that it's quite a friendly community. So I've got guy friends that there's nothing in it. They can ring me and say, what are you doing on Wednesday? To nothing. Should we go and grab a pizza, or should we? And it's fine. It's just friends. So just my experience in the church, it's a very friendly community, and you can actually get to know someone quite well and spend time with them without it being seen as romantic. That's my experience. I don't know what anyone else.
Are you talking vegetarian pizza?
Pardon?
Are you talking vegetarian pizza?
Yeah.
What nonsense
Well,
is that?
I'm vegan, so there you go.
I think for me, it would be a matter of, having a conversation, stating your interests, or, it could be via message or via text. And then you take it from there.
How would somebody who's not from your church have your number?
I thought you meant from my church.
Yeah, so I was saying if the person is not from your church and they see you at church.
I think it's
It could
probably the
be,
easiest thing to
you
do.
could have a conversation there and then with the person, and then you could ask whether that person would like to share a number.
Okay, in the scenario we had earlier, we were told that the person expressed interest and the other person said, I'm at church, I don't want to discuss things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the difficulty is knowing who would be able to say, yes, here's my number, or, dismiss you and say, today's the Sabbath. So
Yeah,
that's
that
be an
could be
issue.
a bit of a discouraging or encouraging scene, but then you have to take it for what it really is. If that's what the person wants, then, what can we say? It would be a matter of trying, isn't it? Because that's the only way you might be able to get that person number, except you ask someone else. But for me, I prefer if you ask me for my number, if that's what you need. And then I'll take it from there. I'll respond, in the best way I should.
I think one of the things that may have worked in the past or was encouraged years ago, I don't know about now, is through someone else that, through knowing someone else, so through a mutual friend. So if you go to a church, you may know somebody at that church who may know that person, so you can have a conversation with that person and feed it through that way. What you say to that person, or can vary, but I think that can also be a route through a mutual connection.
Okay, so that is a suggestion that someone can try. Okay, so is there any other questions or comments that anyone would like to make?
Yes, I wanted to make a comment. In terms of how would you find the person's number? For me personally, so long as you know their name and what church they go to, it really isn't that difficult. I mean, you could ring the pastor for that church and just say, can you give this person my number if the pastor didn't want to hand out the number. I mean, if you really want to find someone's number in the church, I personally, just me, I don't think it's that difficult.
Yeah.
But the scenario you were mentioning about the person saying, I don't want to talk about this on the Sabbath, I've never heard that one before. And I'd have two schools of thought with that. Either they have a particular personal conviction about speaking about things of that nature on the Sabbath, and that's their choice, or it's just a polite way of saying I'm not interested. One of the two. Or maybe it's not even a polite way, they're just trying to style it and it didn't work.
Okay. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's discussion. Does anyone feel as if they've had any issues resolved, or is there a question that you'd like to ask either the men or the women?
I just want to make a comment that, thanks to the men who have shared, and thanks to our ladies who has shared as well, so to make this evening productive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I think I would just echo that as well, especially with the men who've come on and they've been sharing their experiences, because, it's no easy thing when you're in these groups and it's not necessarily people that you know at all or well, to then be sharing, things that you've experienced before. So, great, good to them for coming on and doing that and sharing their experiences. And hopefully then as a group
It was
we
somebody
can
else.
grow.
I'm still wondering why the sisters were so silent on the offside rule.
Well, I
So
knew exactly
yeah,
what it meant, but I don't understand it. So I thought that rules me out. Then I just put a cross through my name. I know it's football, but I can't explain it.
All right, okay.
So why we were so silent?
Does that mean you need some training, sister? You
I think that if you limit it to saying
Well,
that,
the requirement was that they had to know. So I thought, I don't know. So I just put a cross through my name.
is that a
Happy to be taught.
is that a training issue?
What I wanted to say about the football, it's like, you know, when you watch these programs where the person has got a balloon, you are just limiting your scope by just saying, unless they know football, because everybody can be educated in any subject. So by saying, oh, if they don't know what was it the 4-4-4 rule and the offside? Do you know what? I mean, I've taught football to my students at school and I don't know the rule, but I'm competitive enough to encourage them and they can teach me along the way. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm an expert in football. But
Did you finish? Was that your answer? Did you actually answer that? Because I can't believe that that's your only. Can you answer the question, please?
was that me or him?
No, Lennox.
Yeah.
No, you. When the question was asked, that's the only thing you mentioned, and that just doesn't seem realistic to me. Like you're mentioning Sharon. So Lennox, do you mind answering the question, please?
The question was.
Eve, I think it was. What do you look for in a lady?
Yes.
Well, I think communication is prime. I think in any relationship, we all need to have understanding. You know, you need to understand how we as men function, and I need to understand how God made you different to us. It's all about understanding, my sister.
So they need to know the rules of football and they need to be able to
Crucial.
But you see, Lennox, you could have missed out if you said that your ideal woman for whatever up to now, I don't even understand that. You could have missed out on something.
You see my issue. You see the problem we're having.
Brother Lennox, I'm going to pray for you.
I need it.
Find this woman who knows one thing about football, because you know what? Only Jesus can find her.
Well, that's all I need.
When you said 4-4-2, I was Googling. I thought,
Me too. I was thinking,
football. I thought, good luck.
I was thinking, God help me. I ain't got a clue what this gentleman is talking about.
Yeah.
I was going to call my sister.
Now, I knew it was football, but I'm like, seriously, you can't be serious.
But then when I realized it was football, I thought, this brother can't be serious, you know. He really can't. You want a woman who's really into, okay.
So Brother Lennox,
may the Lord be with you.
But you can teach her. She can be teachable.
Brother Lennox, would you be ready to learn the rules of netball?
What makes you think I don't know the rules of netball already?
Or the rules of another game, or would you be willing to, go and climb mountains? Because some of us are into climbing mountains.
I've done Snowdon.
You climb mango tree.
Mummy, they heard you. I've done half of Ben Nevis.
Okay, so what we're going to do now, we've come to the end of this part of this evening. As I said before, I'm hoping that we've been able to learn something, especially in terms of communication, because I think those are the two things that were brought up. Communication and maybe location of the communication and what to say when someone's approaching